Hello everybody, it's me, Rhoku, back with some more League content. This video is the ultimate guide to playing Darius in Season 13. First off, let's get into our summoner spells. Flash and Ghost is the best choice for every single match. You might think it's better to go for Flash TP or Flash Ignite as a beginner player, but it's best to go Flash Ghost straight from the get-go because using Ghost aggressively takes a bunch of practice, so it's better to just dive straight into the water to learn to swim, so to speak. For our runes, we're going to go for Conquer and Resolve or Conquer and Sorcery. Now, regardless of what our secondary tree is, we have to go for Precision in our primary tree because Conquer, Triumph, and Last Stand is kind of mandatory on Darius. You can choose between Alacrity and Tenacity. Alacrity if you want to be really aggressive, and Tenacity if you're up against high CC teams. Now, for our secondary tree, as we mentioned before, we can choose between Sorcery and Resolve. Sorcery gives you the highest amount of playmaking potential with your summoner spells, so if you've already mastered Darius mechanically and are up against an easy lane, Sorcery is pretty useful, but Resolve is better in terms of preparing for really specific lanes or being really good at key situations. So if you're going to go for the Resolve tree, you have to take either Bone Plating or Second Wind because of how powerful they are. Bone Plating is straight up a life hack against champions like to go in and do a bunch of attacks at once. So Jax, Set, champions that don't really outrange you. Second Wind is great against champions who tend to outrange you and poke you down, like ranged top laners or something that just outranges you in general, like a GP or like an Aatrox. The second rune in this tree can be anything from one of these 4 ones. You can go Demolish against a champion that you've already beaten in lane. You basically counter them with Darius, or against a champion who roams a lot like Shen, so that you can punish them by taking their turret platings with Demolish. You can go for Overgrowth for a bunch of extra HP. I think you get like 150-ish around mid-game, which is pretty useful sometimes. Revitalize is really powerful because if you're low HP, it gives you around 15% extra healing and shield power, so it's great against a team that doesn't have quite the burst to kill you quickly, and it's also great if you have a healer on your team like a Yuumi or a Soraka. Unflinching is great if you're against high CC teams or teams that have a lot of slows, like they have champions like Anivia or Ashe. As for these stats right here, you basically want to just copy this and change between these two stats. Attack speed is really necessary on Darius to make some of the combos happen early game, and without this attack speed right here, it's going to be really tough for you to actually 1v1 champions. As for these two rows, you can go for double resistances like this, or go for attack damage right here, and then go for one of these resistance things. Now, generally speaking, the HP right here, because it scales, it's worth more after, I think, level 5 or 6 than either of these two resistances. So if it's an easy lane, go for this setup. But if it's a lane they have to fight out a lot, then go for resistances based on who you're up against. And if it's a really tough lane, you can go for double resistances. Let's talk real quick about our items. If you want to get this exact item set in your matches, to make your life easier, I've left the item set code in the description and the pinned comments. I've also left my item set guide there in order to help you in case you don't know what to do with that code. For our starting items, we have the choice between Doran's Blade and Doran's Shield. Doran's Blade is great as it gives you a really good amount of stats for early all-ins, so it's great against bruiser matchups. Doran's Shield is great against range matchups that tend to outtrade you. Now keep in mind, Doran's Blade is a riskier buy, so if you don't know which one to get, go for D-Shield, because the worst D-Shield would do is that it'll make you worse at being aggressive, whereas the worst Doran's Blade will do is that it will single-handedly lose you the lane. Now, we have to make sure that we get wards. It's great against junglers. Rifle Pot is great if you have spare gold for extra sustain, and make sure that during mid-game you switch from yellow trinket to blue or red, depending on whether if you're split pushing or if you're playing with your team and want a clear vision for them. Now for Darius, we can't just rush into our mythic like most champions. You have to go for counter items. What do I mean by a counter item? Now, Darius really needs to win lanes securely, and against a lot of matchups, you really need some of these items to make sure that you have a chance at actually beating them. So, against Irelia, for instance, you gotta have at least a Warden's Mail or a Plated Steel Caps. Fiora, Plated Steel Caps. Kennen, you gotta have Merc Treads. Against some other matchups, you gotta have Antheals. Some matches, you gotta have Negatron Cloak. You get the idea, right? We always have to make sure that we secure the lane first before going for our mythic. Keep in mind that if you've already won the lane securely, then you can just skip these counter items and go straight for your mythic. But if the lane isn't secure yet, or if you're only just 1 kill ahead, then go for these to really secure it and be a brick wall that the enemy just cannot get through. Darius has a reasonable amount of choice for his mythics, but you'll mostly be building Starbreaker or Triforce. Now, Starbreaker is great because if you're not super fed and you've not won lane by like 3 kills or more, then that slow is going to be essentially mandatory against a lot of champions in all-ins. You can't really survive the pure DPS of some champions, so that slow will let you kite them, or against some other choices or against some other matchups, it's going to let you slow them down to set up more of your stacks. Triforce is great if you're really fed, or if you're up against a very squishy heavy team because it lets you chunk them out and kill them in 4 stacks. Against lots of squishies, you can do auto WQ, auto, and then just ult kill them at 4 stacks because of just how much burst there is with Triforce. Divine Sunder is great since the meta of nowadays includes a lot of tanks stacking too much health. So if you're up against a Mundo or a Kisante or like an Ornn, then Divine Sunder will be so useful because even if you lose to them pretty hard earlier on, you'll be able to just 1v1 them later on and use them as easy 5-stack targets. So Divine Sunder is great in this specific meta. Now there are some other mythics that you can use. Goredrinker is great against a full melee team. Jaksho is great if you're going to go for Cleaver and then Jaksho, and Iceborne is, I guess, decent in some lanes, but you really just go for these 3 mythics most of the time. Let's real quick run through all these legendaries. Styrax is a great item for Darius. It gives you a lot of tankiness and a lot of damage at the same time, and it levels up with you, so if you have a big level lead on the enemy, the Styrax is really huge. If you're going to Strybreaker and want to have basically a lot of teamfight pop-off potential, then Death Dance is also great. So if you're up against a team where you're guaranteed to get kills in teamfights, then Death Dance is your go-to. Silvermere Dawn is basically when you need QSS. Campung Chainsword is the best way of getting anti-heal. Frozen Heart is great against all attackers that you can't really counter with randoms or other armor items, so Master Yi, Vayne, or if you want to just get it quickly to cheese some top laner for 1v1s because of its cheapness. Malmormoshes is basically just Styrax but against pure AP teams, but it's really just worse than Styrax even against heavy AP teams, so just get it if you're up against only AP. Hullbreaker is decent if you're planning on split pushing only, but I really wouldn't get this unless your team is so bad that you have no choice but to split push and then just cheese multi-kills alone. DMP or Dead Man's Plate is great if you want to have a lot of move speed, so if you already won the game reasonably and want to just run around the map and get the fights quickly, then DMP is great. If you're also running for a move speed focus build with Strybreaker into Dead Man's Plate, you can basically have a lot of move speed and essentially get to every single fight as much as you can, because this is one thing Darius struggles with, and it's just like Dead Man's Plate, Strybreaker kind of cures this. Force of Nature is the best magic resist item, and the move speed it gives you is really huge, so don't slack on it if you're up against AP damage. Randoms is great against crit damage. Spirit Visage is great if you can get your Qs off a lot in teamfights, or if you have a healer on your team. Thornmail is great if you have a single melee champion that you have to apply the anti-heal on, but if it's like a champion that isn't melee that you can't hook easily, then I wouldn't get Thornmail just for the anti-heal. Gargoyle Stoneplate is expensive, but it is an amazing source of armor magic resist, so if you gotta tank up against both sources of damage and you have a lot of gold, then Gargoyle Stoneplate is your go-to items. Just get used to the active of it, because a lot of players use it at the same time as Strybreaker, so it becomes, kind of useless. Anathema's Chains is great if you're up against a single carry comp, like a Kog'Maw or like a Jinx or something, so you just point this at them and essentially have them not damage you as much. Now, I've also left a bunch of example builds right here. These aren't meant to be followed one-to-one, but they're essentially blueprints for you to plan your build off of, because if you need this exact build, but you don't need Triforce, you can swap it out for Strybreaker, vice versa. Let's get right into Darius' abilities and just a general description of how you're going to be using them, which one's important, and a bunch of simple combos. So first up, Darius' passive, he essentially gets a bleed stack on his targets every time he damages them, aside from his inner Q, right? Aside from that, every single type of damage that he does with all of his abilities and all attacks kind of puts these bleed stacks around the target, and we get 5 bleed stacks, so you get a ton of AD. Now, it's this exact reason right here why we go a lot of tank stats on Darius. The reason we don't go a lot of damage is because our entire champion kit is essentially surviving in a fight until we can get our 5 stacks, because once we get our 5 stacks, we get enough AD to just straight up one-shot people like within a blink of an eye. And we don't just get the ability to one-shot one person, but entire groups of people with our abilities used cleverly. So that's why we basically build tank stats. Now, if you're gonna basically leave someone to die, be really sure of how much damage your bleed does, and also how much regen potential the enemy has. I see this a lot of times because some champions regen way more than others. So if you're up against like a Set's passive regen is really strong, especially when he's super low HP, which is when you're gonna leave him to bleed to death essentially. So if you're up against a Set and you did that tiny bit of damage to basically get him to die with that bleed stacks, make sure to get another all attack in there because Set is going to be able to regen through a lot of it. And some champions have things like cookies or corrupt pot or other things in their kit or their runes that makes it so that it's basically impossible to get them to bleed to death. So pay attention to that and don't really skimp out on that extra bit of attack that could just, guarantee you the kill. Our next thing is our Q. Now, our Q is the bread and butter of Darius, and it is really, really underrated because a lot of people don't really respect Darius's Q. I mean, Darius themselves. They'll miss it, they'll die, and they'll be surprised as to what happened. But generally speaking, into all the matches they have to fight actively, all the bruiser matchups, and basically every single Ignite matchup, if you miss your Q, you'll basically just die in the all-in. So you have to essentially get used to champions' movements in order to consistently land your Qs. To do this, you better just watch your champion, your enemy champion, and understand what they want to do. And this is mostly the common case with minions. So if there's a low HP minion, and the enemy top laner wants to basically farm it, they're going to go up to that minion and right-click it, right, or use their ability. And since we know that they're going to do this, we know their exact positioning, which is when we can go for a nice Q poke, predict it, and land it on them. And these Q pokes are really, really huge in lane because if you take back trades, a nice Q can basically bring you back into the lane and make sure that you're you're returning from that terrible trade essentially. In all-ins, it might be a bit difficult to land your Qs against more competent targets, so this is why we use our W and our E to set up our Q in some of our best combos. So yeah, especially against high-low opponents, it's quite tough to land your Q because they're just going to be trying their best to dodge it with their moon abilities, so some of the combos help to alleviate this issue. One more thing with our Q is that you got to learn how to use your Q with flash, right? A lot of the time, if you want to do flash Q, players do it like this, but that's a bit too late because Darius's Q has a decently long wind time of 0.75 seconds. When you flash and do Q, this gives the enemy a lot of time to react, and you don't want to give them that time. What you basically want to do is Q, and just as it's about to spin, then you flash, okay? So make sure you get that reflex in you. And as for some of the high elo Darius mains out there, if you're about to flash Q a target on a turret or something, and that flash Q would just straight up kill them, basically speaking, you basically just want to walk towards them, Q, and they'll flash on their own. It's basically a really nice way to bait a summoner spell, even when you couldn't have ever killed them because they'll just flash after your flash. So yeah, but keep in mind that this is only good against competent players. If you're fighting a moron, just kill them with a flash Q without even doing this complicated mechanic. Another thing that's kind of useful is that if the enemy has flash, like a Jax or something, then doing a flash Q is going to be quite tough because they're going to flash to basically dodge your Q. So if this is like a Jax, he's low HP, and I do Q flash like this, if he's not really that good at the game, he's going to do nothing. But if he's decent, he's going to flash into my inner Q area. This is when you got to be pretty tricky and unpredictable with your Qs. So if this is the Jax, and he has flash, we both have flash, and a Q like this, then I know he's going to flash on top of me like this, so I'm going to flash to the side to either of these two locations so that I hit both him and the location he would have flashed in if he were to flash into my inner Q. I just said the word flash 20 times in there. A trick that I also do is basically on purpose just walk into my inner Q. I essentially miss my Q on purpose and then just flash into location of the outer Q. This is essentially just tricking the enemy into thinking that they've already dodged the Q, giving them comfort, and then flashing out to basically, land it. It's nothing but a cheese play that works against some players, and it's essentially a trick that only works once. Let's get right into our W. Now, W isn't really anything specific. First of all, it is an auto attack reset, so let's just go for 2 auto attacks like this. You can just go auto W. This is one of the most basic mechanics on Darius that you have to actually master, so get really good at this. Now the thing is, with a lot of Darius players, they essentially do this RW thing way too many times. RW is not always useful because you'll get into a lot of situations, especially when you're trying to set up all-ins in lane, where going for that RW is just not possible. So if that Fiora is going for a max range Q on me to get grasp on me, then if I walk up to get the first R attack off, then she'll just right-click back and get away. This is the kind of case where I want to just go W, get that extra range, because W does increase your R attack range, and then hit her with it so I can actually start the all-in. This is especially useful against champions that have a lot of mobility, because you're not going to have too much time to set up that first all attack to do the W into. So, do the auto W into most cases, but be careful of the few cases where you need W as a slow rather than damage, because in those cases, just W is fine. Now, W also works in a certain way where if you W and start the W on the target, you can basically flash out and Darius will finish out the auto attack and it will apply on the enemy. This is really useful if you want to get that last Noxie Might stack on the enemy. Let's just get that last Noxie Might stack. So he's about to die with his 5 stacks, but if I don't escape, he'll just kill me. So I do W flash out. Because he's slowed, even if he flashes after me, he won't be able to catch up with me and he just bleeds to death. So yeah, that's one trick you can do with Darius. I do it a lot into matchups like Tryndamere, where most of the time against these matchups, I won't really have my ultimate since or like Fiora, for example, too. Because in some of these matchups, you use your ultimate to basically bait some of their abilities or just use it early anyway for the damage. Now, W also cancels into Q, so you can basically press Q at any time during W's animation and have them both play at the same time, like this. And this essentially leads nicely into our first combo, which is auto WQ. Where we use the auto W animation cancel, auto attack cancel, and then we use our WQ W animation cancel, right? So this is our first short little poke combo. You want to essentially do this in every single situation possible, aside from ones where the enemy has mobility. Because if you're doing this against like a Garen or something, the W is going to slow him and you're going to be able to land your Q, right? But if you're doing this against a Riven, I do auto WQ and then she just dashes into it, right? So these kinds of situations, you essentially want to not use this combo because you're just basically giving her the freest way to dodge your Q. And Riven's especially a matchup where if she avoids your Q and she's in melee range, which is basically her perfect range for her entire combo, you're basically just going to die in like 2 seconds. So be really conservative with this combo if you're up against a champion or a player you know that's going to dodge the Q, okay? So, yeah. Another thing is that if you're going for short pokes, some champions will be able to just like dash out of them. So let's say I'm up against like a Gnar under turret here, okay? And let me just turn off the I have. So we're going to imagine that the turret is attacking minions here. And I want to essentially spam E poke, this quick short combo poke, over and over again until they're poked out of lane, right? The thing with Darius is that while earlier on, his hooked mana cost is so high that it just tears up his, mana pool. If you level up to like, let's say 11, the E's mana cost goes down and Darius gets a larger mana pool. So you can essentially just use this quick little combo without actually losing that much mana, right? So if you're in cases where the enemy is like a low range melee, or like just someone that's like a low range in general, like Gnar's not that high range, right? And you can basically just hook them on their turret and poke against them, then do this E or WQ thing over and over again. Now, in some cases, right, this is why it ties to the W. Because the enemy champion has a dash, you might not be able to do the auto attack, because if we do, auto WQ, let's just dash out of the Q. And Q is more important than that one auto attack. So in this case, you want to basically do hook, W, and then Q, right? But with the animation cancel. So we're up against this Gnar right here. Let me put this in the right position, right? W, Q. And because his dash is like a projectile kind of thing, it's not instant, you're going to be able to hit him with that Q pretty easily. There we go. All right. Now for our hook. Our hook is a really, really important ability, and a lot of Darius players absolutely misuse this because, basically speaking, this is not really an ability you want to waste. Now, our hook isn't really just a way to start the fight, right? Most Darius players just use this as engage. Our hook is also our only stun, if that makes sense, because when a champion is knocked up or they're in like a displacement, which is what hook does, it essentially just displaces them by pulling them towards you and then knocking them back up to like, bounce off of Darius. In the state of displacement, the enemy champion is essentially in a state of a stun where they can't move and they can't input all attacks or abilities. So if you're up against a matchup where it's very important that you stun them so that you can, get some last attack in to survive and kill them instead of them killing you quickly, then you basically have to make sure that you don't waste your hook earlier on. This is why into many matchups, we don't actually want to start our all-in with our hook. Let's think about Camille, for example, okay? Now, against Camille, we have to essentially save our hook to cancel her hook shot. So you don't actually want to start all-ins with our hook auto WQ, because Camille will just auto you once, a lot of this damage will just go to her shield, and then she'll W you and then hook shot away. So even though you've done a full combo, you've lost a lot of mana, because you started the fight with your hook, she's disengaged and nothing's going to come out of the fight. And in many cases, especially if she has like grasp, she actually wins that trade, right? So in a lot of cases against some of the more jumpier champions, the way you want to start the all-ins is with your auto attacks. So you do RW, and then depending on the champion, you either play that into RWQ, or you do RW, walk back to bait some abilities, and then go back in for some all-ins. It really depends on the specific champion you're fighting against. Against some champions, you can also just start fights with just W, right? As we mentioned before, in some cases, you just want to hit the people with the max range of W, and you don't really have time for the RW completely, so it's okay to just W and start all-ins that way too. The most common way I see people wasting Darius' hook is like when they have Ghost, essentially. When you have Ghost, it's essentially like a gap closer that allows you to get into the melee range of the enemy without having to waste your hook to get them in your melee range. In this case, it's much better to just walk up on them, start the fight with RW, do your normal combos and whatever, and just use your hook later on in the fight to cancel an ability, to set up one of your abilities, or against the other members of the enemy team if you're in an area of the map where you know you're going to be fighting more than one person. Because a lot of champions in the game have ways that can ruin your life, like shields, stuns, whatever, but your hook is basically going to act as a stun on them. So you can fight this one guy, his enemy team is coming, right? So I can flash on the Lulu, or attack and ult her and kill her quickly, right? So that's an example of how it might play out, but TLDR, conserve your hook and only use it when you need to. And if you have your summoner spells, especially your Ghost, just use your Ghost as an engage and save your hook for the later portion of that fight. One more thing about hook is that it cannot be cancelled by any ability, or it cannot be cancelled by anything in-game. This applies to all of Darius' abilities in general. If you CC Darius and he starts the ability, he will still go through with that ability. What this means is that you can essentially peel yourself off of suppressions in this game. If a Warwick jumps on you and just hook in his direction, he'll latch onto you and Darius will just pull them off of himself. So this is a really little neat life hack. And also the CC immunity of his abilities basically makes it so that if you go, like if you press W, and let's say you're up against Renekton, he W stuns you, but you start your W first, your W slow will still go through, and he'll be slowed after he comes out of the stun, which will make his escape a bit harder. This is really useful against Jax, by the way, because if you're fighting Jax, and he starts his counter-strike and walks up on you, you basically have to have the exact Jax's counter-strike timer in your head. And if you start your W, the second he stuns you, you can basically get the W off on him for free. And the Jax matchup is like one of those matchups where it's really crucial that you get your W off on him properly. And if you do it, you basically just set up most of your kits so you can just go walk up to him and kill him. Now, our ultimate. So our ultimate is the big thing that we all know about Darius, the dunk, dunk time, all that good stuff. Okay, let's talk about his ultimate real quick. So Darius' ultimate is a very vital portion of his gameplay because you really have to know how to land ult kills when a person's not at 5 stacks. So we all know Darius' 5 stack damage, and by the way, this number that they list in the HUD is not the correct one because let's get 5 stacks. Right, as you can see with Noxie Might, the max ult damage has changed, right? And since we stacked up Conqueror 2, it's gotten even greater. The exact math is basically just you take the Noxie Might bonus AD you get and you multiply it by 1.5 and you add it to the max amount you see there, because that amount of 553 only counts the bonus damage Darius has currently, but it doesn't count Darius's Noxie Might bonus damage. It doesn't really make sense because if Darius has 5 stacks, he is gonna have that Noxie Might, but we'll leave logic not to Riot Games then. Anyway, get used to the amount of damage that ultimate does without stacks, because you get into a lot of situations where you'll have to kill the enemy with less than 5 stacks, or people who are like really low HP will just like throw themselves at you. So don't tunnel vision in fights, and you'll see that in some cases, champions with like 100, 200 health will just walk around still participating in the fight. And this is basically asking for you to just flash ult them, right? Oh, I did it wrong. This is asking for you to just flash ult them and then just kill their whole team because you got your Noxie Might instantly, right? Or in a lot of cases, champions will be like at 500 health, and because we have, let's say, 277, we can just W ult, right? And that'll essentially just kill them on its own with just 1 stack. Because remember, each stack increases the damage by 20%. So 20% to that 283 is going to be enough to kill him within the damage of that W, okay? So have an idea of generally how much damage your ultimate does without 5 stacks, okay? You can get a lot of Noxian Might kills earlier on in team fights this way, and essentially just sweep up fights before anybody knows what's going on, okay? One more thing with ultimate is that you can flash in the middle of it too, so as you can see, it's kind of like W in that once you start it, you can just flash out and it will play out no matter what. This is really useful if you want to get like that last stack of bleed on the enemy, but you want to just flash them ASAP so that you avoid some damage from whatever ability they're casting towards you. You can also use this in a way, in like a gap closer. Let's say that we're killing this guy real quick. Bam, 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 bam. We ult, flash towards this guy, all W ult, and kill them both real quick without them being able to fight back against us at all. That flash ultimate thing is kind of like an assassination move, really. It's mostly going to be useful in team fights, but it's also useful in some cases where you got to get abilities off quickly before you die. Now, one more thing that's important in team fights is actually how to use your Q, because our Q is like our best weapon when we have Noxian Might to get our Noxian Might off on multiple players at the same time. So let's say that we get Noxian Might off of this one player. Now you can just like ult this guy, run towards this guy, kill him, ult there, bam. This works great in theory against dummies that don't do anything against you, but against real players, they'll be able to toss abilities at you, CC you, damage you, and put you down before you do any of this. So you have to be really, really fast when you go for these kinds of abilities and plays. A great way to do this is get Noxian Might off of this guy. Bam. Now that we have Noxian Might, every single person we deal damage to will have the 5 stacks. So we can basically Q, and then flash and hit all of them with it. So now it's a matter of just buttering them up a tiny bit and then ulting them and killing them. Even if you die while doing this, this mass application of Noxian Might usually does so much damage that like it's going to be much easier for your team to just kill everyone off of that. So it's a great combo if you can pull it off. But keep in mind that against really good players, they'll see it coming. So make sure that they don't have their summoner spells, right? If they have their summoner spells, then you going for flash Q can really just leave you out of position. Because keep in mind, let's say my team's around here. I go for flash Q, but then these guys both flash out, and now I'm in the middle of their entire team, and I'm gonna die in like 3-4 seconds. So yeah, just keep these things in mind, okay? Just make sure you keep track of enemy summoner spells, because Darius really needs the enemy to not have summoner spells for his whole kit to work, essentially. Now, one thing for Darius is that you're not going to be able to use your ultimate to kill the enemy with it at all times. In a lot of 1v1 situations in lane, you're basically forced to not use your ultimate to kill the enemy because they have some way to essentially impede you from ult executing them. Whether that be a Tryndamere ultimate, a Kayle ultimate, a Fury Riposte, whatever. A lot of champs have different ways of messing with you, last hitting them with your ultimate. So if you're in such a fight where you're up against these champions, or maybe you have to just kill the enemy as soon as possible, then don't just hyper-fixate on killing the enemy with a last hit ultimate, right? You can always just, ult them earlier on to at least get the surprise damage on them, or maybe if you know that the ult and the auto attack after is going to kill them, you can ult and then auto attack like that, and that should be able to put them down on its own, right? And against the Fioras and the Tryndameres, you might want to just use your ultimate early just to get that burst of damage off, so that you can at least have your ultimate be useful to you in the fight. Or in some cases, you might use it to essentially bait an ability. Because if you're fighting like a Kayle, right, and you just want her ultimate to like be used in the fight already, just like obviously ult her, and then once she comes out of ult, use that RW to just put her down, right? So your ult is more than just a thing for her to last hit people with, okay? It can, in some situations, be really useful to just use it in the middle of the fight to either bait an ability or to just basically burst someone down really quickly, hyperfixate on speed, rather than just like, killing them stylishly by just last hitting them. One thing's also something you can do with ultimate is that you can essentially use it as like a sheen proc. So let's say you fought the enemy like this. Bam, got the sheen proc, and ultimate auto attack will kill them, so you can just ult and then just use the auto attack with the sheen proc to kill them. This is especially useful with Triforce, and there's also something with Darius' ultimate, in that doing this will sometimes just reset your ultimate as if you killed them with the ult. Now, if you ult someone and they die to you within like 0.25 seconds or so, you will get the ult reset even if your ult wasn't the thing that killed them. So if I ult this guy, But what kills him is my bleed stack or my ult attack right after it. If it falls within that tiny fraction of a second after the ultimate, I'll still get the reset. I'll get the sound effect like Noxian Might. So this is quite a powerful trick that you can do on Darius if you're really used to it. Now, you have to be really good at canceling ability animations, right? Yes, ability animations, and just being really clean with your auto attacks. If you want to have like an in-depth guide on my combos, go check out my combo guide because I explain exactly how to cancel your ability animations, right? But for now, it's essentially just inputting your auto attack or your movement command right after the ability's over. One more thing is that a lot of Darius players don't really know exactly how much damage their ultimate does later on, because let's just go for like a late game sort of build. So we're going for a Triforce, Derax, Death Stance, DMP, for example, and then let's get some more gold actually. Grind set. Okay, bang, bang. Okay, so let's get level 16 as well, just to basically get ourselves fully into immersion. Now, our Noxian Might theoretically does 1k damage, but if we get Noxian Might off of the minions, let's stack up our Conqueror too. Now, it does 1,400 damage. You have to be really aware of how much this is later on in the game, because what I see happen with a lot of Darius players is that they have like 1.3k, 1.4k damage ultimates, but they only ult once the enemy gets into the 1,000 health threshold. I don't have to tell you anything for you to know that this is not really efficient. So know how much damage your ultimate does, and be quite efficient with when you ult to get that exact kill that you need. Because although in a lot of cases, it doesn't matter that you ultimate late if you get the kill, in basically 1 out of 10 cases, it will matter that you get that ult kill as soon as possible, because if you give that one enemy, that one ADC, that extra second to survive, they'll be able to auto-attack you to death. So be really good at precisely killing people with your ultimate in later portions of the game. We're going to do a ton of damage with it. I'll mention this again, as a shorthand to calculate exactly how much damage your max ult stacks do. It's your Noxian Might bonus 80, so 230, plus the Conqueror bonus 80, which is roughly 30 by level 10 or so. So 230 plus 30, 260, times 1.5, which is going to give us 390. So 390 plus 1,023 is going to be roughly 1,413. So let's just get our Noxian Might here. And our Conqueror full stacked. As you guys can see, it is roughly that amount, okay? This is how you shorthand calculate the ult damage. It's bugged by it showing 900, by the way, because it just shows 900 on everything for some reason, but yeah, Riot Games. Am I right or am I right? Okay, let's get right into a match where I play Darius and show you how to win the game through an informative commentary. Okay, we're back with gameplay for the Ultimate Darius Guide. We're up against this specific team and they fear a matchup, so we opted for this room page. The main principle, quote-unquote, for the room page is basically that I want to have enough tenacity against the Fiddlesticks and the Thresh without having to sacrifice my boots by getting Merc Treads, because I want to put Steel Caps against this Fiora. I'm running Doran's Shield in combination with Second Wind because Fiora has gone for the Grasp tree, which allows her to get max range Qs off and just, poke me down, right? So I'm going for a more defensive setup against her poke. We've gotten unlucky with the Vital, so we can't step up. She'll just get the Vital and get a lot of damage off, especially with the grass, so we have to chill. Wait for this to go down. She got that. She got that one too? I guess I moved, like, above her somehow. While trying to go to the right. I was really trying to block the Vital with the wall, but it wasn't meant to be. Alright, well that's why we get the sustain build then. We just chill back and regen. Doran's Shield does give you recovery, which is just extra HP regen, so it helps heal back HP when you lose trades. This is a matchup where you don't want to mess around with her too much in the earlier levels, because if you don't have your slows and your hook, it does get a bit messed up. I was trying to land that Q. If I landed, I win the trade pretty nicely, but it's fine. An issue that a lot of players make with these kinds of passive champions, especially the ones when they take Doran's Shield, is they take a bad trade and they don't actually let the Doran's Shield tick and give you all of its regen, right? So you better make full use of that thing before going in for another trade. Gotta be real chill here. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. She can basically just get those max range Qs off, and if she doesn't hit the vital, she just gets the grass proc off, which does relatively good damage. Also, my CSing is really sorry. Ah, she blocked both my Q and my W. She only blocked one. I could have gone for an all in there. Gotta use the potion. I ran out of their vision range so that I could reset the vital to a more favorable one. Nice Q. Okay. With our HPs being more leveled now, we should be able to go for a decent all-in. I still have to be careful of getting that vital. It's not a good position. Let's get a ward out for the Fiddlesticks. Okay. With me, like, dodging her riposte, she really couldn't do anything to stop me from killing her there. So she had the flash, which gave us a free ghost for flash trade. Now, there is a world where I follow her through and kill her with my WQ that was coming up, but I didn't want to risk it. Because if I give her a vital there, I kind of just die to the bleed. I don't want to die while killing her.
No mistakes.
Okay. She's kind of running low on mana, so if I can force a fight soon, should be good to go. It has to be soon because if you guys look at the wave and just how this has been going, she's pretty close to level 6. Okay, I'm pushing into her. Reset the bad vital. I'm going to try to stop her from taking this one. Let's get our level 6. Just use my ultimate and time the Wither riposte to just get the last hit off. Now, if I didn't mess up the ultimate prediction, I could also just get the final auto attack off, but then I'd have to sacrifice my flash word. And if I mess that up and take a turret shot, I kill her, but I also die myself. With me pulling the prediction off, we basically got the best of all worlds, not both worlds, every single world, because we got her ignite, we got the kill on her, we got the crash in, and we didn't die. So, pretty good situation so far. We are in the driving seat of the lane. Now, build-wise, I'm thinking of going for a Strikebreaker here. We've not securely won the lane yet, so I'm still going to go for Strikebreaker, but if we start stomping her, maybe I'll consider Triforce, but given this team, I think Movespeed is really invaluable, so Strat is the main plan. Okay, let's ward up. Fiddle is not level 6 yet, but I think he should be in, like, if he's power farming in a short while. Also, I cannot fight. She has her ultimate, and I don't have mine. So if we fight, unless she severely messes up and doesn't land any vitals, which it's like, you know, they're not difficult to land. Especially some of the initial ones with the ultimate. She just basically wins. Now that she lost that trade so horrifically, I basically have pry over the lane even though I don't have my ultimate. So, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna walk up and stop her from getting this cannon. Perfect. Now we are going to freeze this lane and get those two. I'm making sure to hit those melees with my inner Q, not to do too much damage to them. Auto W. When I'm trying to freeze, always go for the melees first. The melee aggro sort of AI is really terrible, because it just runs all the way around and hits the minions in the back. Alright, now that we have our ultimate and our ghost, we should be able to go for an all-in killer. Fear didn't take inspiration, so her Summer spell cooldowns are just gonna be like the normal,
I do not
you know,
tolerate
amount.
cowardice.
I'm just trying to zone her off the wave best I can. The longer a freeze goes, the more gold lead you get without even having to kill your opponent. So
My destination is
I'm just generating a really fat lead here. Let's kill that one. And go down for a ward here. Feels, yeah, he has level 6 already. Okay.
stay alert.
This is not really gonna be easy for me to 2v1 if he gets here. Yeah, I don't think she's gonna fall for that, bro. Just a hunch. Okay. Doesn't seem like the best freeze, but the cannon having so much more health than mine basically let it just tear my minion wave through. There we go. They're playing this passively. I'm going to assume that whenever she's being aggressive, actually, the fiddle's around. Because he does have a really good path to gank my lane, which is through the bushes. It's going to be working quite well with his ultimate too, so, yeah. Okay, we see him now. Let's get down here. The fact that I dragged this melee is really bad. It wasn't attacking the wave. Okay, well, let's go down there, see what's up. If we catch the fiddlesticks in the jungle, should be pretty free kill. Alright, he left. I lose all the melees, but I don't think we can maintain the freeze now. With the mini wave crashing like this, it means that when the next mini wave gets here, the melees will 100% get into turret range. Like, it's just give them time and they will find a way to get into turret range. Next time she dashes in for one of the minions, I'll just go towards her and go for the all-in. What did I say? They find a way. They have to. I'm trying to see if I can bait her in with some of these CS.
Exploit every weakness.
Yeah. If I ghost like that, I don't think I get the kill. I basically have to have her riposte towards me, or riposte on the spot while I'm walking towards her, right? Let's crash this one in. Good. Now we recall. We have 1,800 gold, which is pretty good. We can spend it on our Starbreaker here. Build it most of the way through. We could also go for Tabis here, but that freeze sets such a massive difference between us that, like, just me having this much overwhelming amount of stats should be good enough for me to just blitz through her without needing Tabis. Let's see what's going on down here. On to the next one. Yeah, she's just free food there. Okay, let's crash this baby in. Gonna slow push. Crash a big wave in, and then freeze whatever's left. Like, because the thing is, right, when you slow push a wave, and then you crash it into a turret, the turret kind of acts like a reset of sorts. So it kind of like resets the wave into pushing into you. What I'm basically doing here is just wasting her time. Because if I can stop her from efficiently clearing this wave, she'll be able to. Yo, just hit her! Okay. Yeah. Man, I'm trying to, like, I'm winning an Oscar here for baiting. Because the thing is, right, if I just, like, obviously lose my ult here, and then take a turret shot too, it's like, yeah, she's 100% going for the all-in, right? Which basically lets the Elise kill her. Because even if she goes for the all-in, I will get good damage off on her with a WQ. She can't one-shot me, so should give her like the room to just kill her with some of her point and click damage, which she did use to put her down, so that's good. Okay, I'm gonna recall right here. Give my star break here. Now for this team specifically, with me winning this hard, I can actually just go for triple tenacity. Like their CC is so oppressive that it's not even that int for me to go for this, but I definitely have to go for a Warden's Mail. Now Warden's Mail is like the perfect substitute for a Ninja Tabi, right? And because I have to go this because of the fiddles, you know, silence, Thresh's stuff, I'm forced to buy something for the lane and also their Fed Kaisa, because she's gonna be a big problem. They're pretty like massive CS advantage over this Fiora, so that's helping us majorly, even though we just have 1 kill. Also, I gotta wake up because giving her free Q CS like that is not good. Anyway, since we crashed the wave in, it's pushing into us, and I can just freeze this. Okay, gonna drag the mini wave as far as possible. We gotta be very surgical with the wave now. If I hit it too much, the freeze is not gonna work out. Actually, can I just kill her like this? Yeah, no. Oh, she blocked my Strider there, which was really bad. I could have tried to hook her for that, but I was trying to make it so that I could one combo her. But since she got my Vital with her Q there, the cooldown of it was low enough so for her to use it again. We basically just greeted. If I can keep them separate, they shouldn't be able to gang up on me. Jesus, there's just... I thought it was just the Fiddle and the Fiora, so I could just 2v1 them easily, right? But then the Twitch was there as well, which made the whole thing way harder for me to do. And actually, I'll just skip out on the Warden's Mail since I'm going for Death in a second anyway. Might as well just build the armor and have that act as my little Ninja Tabi. It's not exactly Ninja Tabi, but it's armor, right? So it's good enough. Now, dying there really sucked for us. The Twitch getting my bounty is going to make him a bit more of a problem. The really tragic thing is if I just save my Ghost and I had it there, I could just catch the Twitch, and with me having Starbuck already, I could one-shot him in one go and then kill the... I'm not sure if I could kill the Fiddle there as well, because he has like a bunch of health, right? So probably wouldn't be able to kill him there. Her taking a turret like this means that I could just take her turret now. So I don't want it too much. Let's go and do it quickly.
Stay alert.
Okay. I don't, just the premise of her still staying there is a bit funny to me. Oh, we should be careful. Yeah, Zeri looks like she's gonna die. Alright, let's leave. I don't have my Ghost, but if I could catch someone alone, I can definitely get some work done here. I need one of them to work out. Come on. If I ult that, I just flash on the rest of them. Oh my god. If they gave me the fill ult reset, I could have just, like, killed all of them. But oh well. And I guess some people just have to right-click the enemy. Oh. I kind of don't want to go top to be near the dragon when it spawns. So I'm going to go bot like this. Good thing that I didn't waste my summons in that encounter. I now have them for this next fight. Also, I cannot wait until I have my Death Stance finished. Let's get this wave.
Noxus will rise.
Did she get hooked? Oh. Let's try to go for flank here. Please give me Noxiamide. Jesus. If they gave me my 5 stacks, that fight would have been a lot easier to pull off, but...
Do you want me to bury that?
At least the Yuumi got on the right target, so... we made it through the fight. Wonderful. I should have probably gone for Revitalize because I had the Yuumi on me, but I feel like unflinching is quite important here. Doesn't matter too much. We got Death Stance, which is really, really huge when you have like a healer on your team. Because they can... basically, the thing with Death Stance that's like really strong isn't just the healing part. It's the defy... like, it's the ignore pain part. The fact that it delays the damage means that if your champion has healing mechanics or other things like that, it can basically just lead to them being artificially tankier, if that makes sense. As long as they're in the fight. And Defy, the OP part is that it completely slashes ignore pain. So if someone deals 1,000 damage to you, and then you kill them, this basically just gets rid of like 300 of it, you know, just like that. So it can get really crazy in fights, because you're basically just no longer taking damage. Well, not completely, but a solid portion of damage, just you're not taking it. Let's see here. We can actually catch this Twitch. We would have caught him. That's actually just insurance here. Nice. The Kaiser was there too. Ah. I comboed that really terribly. If I hooked the Fiora there early, I could have gotten my kill on the Thresh, and then killed the Fiddle too at least. But it's fine. The team pulled together some kills without me, and then the Baron is still an option for us. So they have to like really be quick about it because they have the means to delay it with this Thresh for like a few seconds, but mostly because if they don't clear this and get out quickly, then the Twitch might prove to be a bit of a problem. But no, with the Thresh gone, he has no peel, so we just kill him if he shows up. Okay, gonna go for Sterix here. Give me a bit more burst resistance. It also works wonderful with Death Stance because while the Sterix shield is popping up, the shield takes the damage, right? So leaves you room for the Death Stance to just kind of heal you up, their HP bar, while the shield is just preserving it, you know? So yeah, I should have gone for a Ruby Crystal too, I just kind of forgot about it.
No mistakes.
Okay. Good. We gotta be careful. The enemy team probably are like really desperate, so they would be looking for ult plays with the Fiddle on me. Some kind of split pushing, but kind of like the split push that wastes the enemy's time, not the one that, you know, you go 1vx or you take objectives. No. Okay, just look at them. Twitch coming in here. Fiddle's probably on his way too. Gonna use the Vision Ward. The Vision Plant to help me out. They might have this warded, so... No, they don't. Perfect. I'll just catch up to him. I'm gonna just press R. Okay, let's kill the Twitch 2. Get on me. Not happy that I didn't get the point and click ult. Let me just recall for this Fiora here. Gonna get the components of my Styrax here. Bang, pickaxe, ruby. Get up here. Stop her from getting anything. She's not recalling, so she'll be able to waste her time while the team gets turrets. So she can't defend. Ah, lucky, lucky. Ah. If I land the hook, I kill her. They should probably get out of there. First coming back. Get out. We have to get this dragon. They're on 3 dragon points already, and Chemtech Soul is really powerful. It's not something we want to give them for free. Especially when we're so much stronger than them. Okay. Now we can't exactly go for it. Okay. I was basically counting on the flank by the Akali there to soften them up. I'm not gonna... Like, the reason I didn't want to rush the dragon too quickly is because I basically wanted to have Elisa's smite to secure it. Also, we're dragging it back, because the field can just ult over the wall. Nice, let's kill him. Yumi, do your thing. Nice. Let's recall, get our Styrax, and then let's just go for DMP for move speed. Bang, bang. Come here, kitten. Okay, you don't want to get on Darius. That's your problem. Looks like an ish you, then an ish me. Let's ride the plants. Oh.
By my hand.
Should be able to. I mean, we beat her quite easily, but the problem isn't beating her. It's just she's kind of mobile, so she can just like get away from us. It's fine. With her not really posing a threat in the side lane, it's not really. Doesn't really matter that we can't kill her. Can I please get Noxia Might ult? Okay, we gotta queue this one again. Yeesh. That was really close. If I didn't queue the Gromp there, the bleed would have just killed me instantly. Not the instantly, but it would have just killed me. And by bleed, I mean Twitch's poison. Since he's building AP, the poison does so much true damage, so it's quite tough to like survive it. It's stronger than Noxia Might. Oh my god, Fear just got a kill there. Yep. I thought this was like a pretty cut and dry win, but it looks like we have to go on. Assuming 2 more. I'm estimating 2 more dunking sprees. Also, we gotta move to the Baron to stop them from getting it.
I will not rest.
Okay, let's get up here. One of the main problems with Darius is that as the game goes on, you kind of start to inevitably slack on CS. Since you're not that mobile, it can be a bit of a pain to get to side lanes. Jesus. That's balanced.
Noxus will rise.
I really thought I could put her down there, but she healed way too much with all that. Also, we gotta get out of Kai'Sa's like W range, so I didn't get put down at range. Whew, that was close. I gotta queue this for HB.
Carve a path.
Again, I can get back into the action. They've left us alone. Okay. Let's just get the wave then and leave. Those kills have kind of bulked Fiora up a bit more than I expected, so we gotta be careful around her. Can't underestimate her. Underestimate. Oh man, we're dying. I gotta push up and get something for this death spree. We're not really doing all that good in terms of fighting together. Let's see if I can choose one of them. Okay, just kidding. Let's get DMP, and then I'd say we should grab the Force of Nature. Should we? Actually, no. Randomness is way better. Kai'Sa's like pretty strong, Fiora's too. Randomness deals with the Kai'Sa and it helps me against the Fiora like relatively nicely. The thing that sucks is that the slow is going to be pretty overlapping with Strybreaker, but that's just how it's gotta be. I could also go Thornmail actually. Thornmail could work quite nicely because I got a lot of healing, right? Like Thornmail Darius kind of sucks in terms of applying like anti-heal, but it's something, right? At least. We could also build the Rubicus and the Kembang Chainsword, but I kind of want to tank up. 4 booster items is like really squishy. We have to be really careful. Ooh. They can't reach me. Gotta wrap around. Or we got caught. Okay. Could have engaged there, so we get the kill on the Fiddlesticks while he's alone. Yep. I have to die there. Honestly, not the dunk time dream I was having, but it's like, at some point I gotta just get in there, CC people, absorb pressure, and then let these guys do the work. Because Akali's pretty competent, right? Zeri does her job, everybody just does their jobs, so they kill the Fiddlesticks in seconds here with the CC, and then they move on to the rest of them, which is basically what happened. Alright, pretty decent Darius match, also good fundamentals. And bang. See you in the next one.